Hi, and welcome to exercise 4. In this exercise, we are going to be dealing with the fourth characteristics of CSS transitions, which are delays. Delays are just how long you want in milliseconds or seconds before you want the action to start after the hover event. In this case, we're going to be making this little red circle with the blue dot, which you are going to find out is actually a bunch of blue dots. When we mouse over this circle or hover over it, watch them scatter. And notice that they each go at a different rate. Let me zoom back or hover back out. So what we're doing here is going to be transitioning a number of things. We're transitioning using delay and opacity. Opacity is what's controlling whether or not the red circle is showing up or not. And delay is controlling when they leave from their position. So let's go start and look at the file that we need. Let's go out to my desktop, and in this case we're going to be in class 2 lab. We're looking for the delays folder and the delays HTML. So we'll go ahead and open that in Dreamweaver or your editor. And let's just take a quick look at this before we move on. In this, we have the same titles up above that we've had in the others, but we also now have a container. That's the box that we have around it. Then we have all these empty divs. There is a div called main, and main is going to be the red circle that we saw. And then we have ball 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are each of the different blue circles. There are 8 of them, and they each are going to get some of their own styling. So you'll be starting out with this HTML document, and just like before, we need to go ahead and create a new CSS document. So we'll go ahead and do that. And we're going to save it right away. And I'm going to go into my correct folder. We're going to go into delays. I am just going to call this delays.css. I know, very creative. Then the same as before, I'm going to go and link it. So we're going to go link and rel and I don't need to type and href. There we go. And we're going to go find it. And it's in delays. We'll make sure we get delays.css. And we'll close that up. So now we have our external style sheet attached. And now we're ready to start making our styles. Similarly to the easing exercise, because we have a box that we are going to be mousing over to trigger the actions, we need to first style that container. And so in this case, it was an ID just called container. And I don't recommend you copying this over from the easing one, because this is a box that's got some set parameters that have to do with so that those little nice blue circles line up exactly on the outer edge. So all the math has been taken care of. But once we get this finished, you can go ahead and play with that to determine where things go, the size of the box, the margins that you're setting for those circles to make them move. So we're going to give this one a border. It's 1 pixel, it's solid, and it's AAA, which is gray. This one has a height of 400 pixels, and it has a width of 500 pixels. So you can see it's a little bit different. Then we're going to give it a margin of 0 on the top and auto on both sides. So it's auto left and right, so that's what'll center it. And we're going to give it some padding. This is all just kind of being copied over from our similar box. So we're giving this a padding of 10 pixels, and we are going to give this a position relative. And this is our container. So we won't see anything right now other than this simple box. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the next thing. So if we look at our HTML, in addition to our container, we need main. Main is that red circle that went in the center of the box. So let's go ahead and create that. It's also an ID style. This one has a background color of a red, and so you can do a hashtag. You can type red. Let's see, FFO. No, there we go. F00. So there's our red. We'll give it our width of 100 pixels and a height also of 100 pixels. Oh, looks like I didn't close this one right up above me with the semicolon. Caught me in the last video too. Okay, width and height. And we are going to center this. And so we're going to say we want it, we're going to be using position absolute. So this is where the positioning comes in on this one, position absolute. And we want it from the left. We're going to do it 210 pixels from the left, and we are going to do it 160 pixels from the top. This is what's going to position it right in the center of our box so it doesn't move. And I said we were going to apply a border radius. And if you remember from the last exercise, exercise 3, when we changed those squared boxes, the little ones that traveled across the page, from squares to circles, we took the border radius at half to make circles. So that's what we're going to do here too. So border radius, half of 100 is 50 pixels. So there is our border radius. And just like before, we're going to wait and not do the transition quite yet. We're going to wait and do that at the end. So I'm just going to save, and we're going to go take a look at what this looks like right now. All we have is a box with a red circle in the middle. There it is. Looks like the Japanese flag at the moment. So we're going to go and add some red circles to this that are going to be moving. So those were all of the balls. Ball 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. There were 8 of them. With creating our first ID, and that'll be ball 1. And then we'll come back and fill in the rest in a little bit. So the first thing we need to do is we need to give it a background color. And you can type in blue, or you can give it a hex number like we did up above. Either one will work just fine for this exercise. And then we need to give it a height. And these are each going to be little 20 pixels large, and a width. So they're in essence starting out as boxes, but just like the red circle that started out as a box, this one will as well. So we need a border radius. And should we know how much we need for that border radius to make it a circle, right? So then we need to also position this absolute. And to make it completely in the center, we need to give it a top, as far as how far it's coming down from the top, and left, how far it's coming over from the left. So these are the items that we need. So now if we go and take a look on our browser, we should see, let's go save and refresh. We have a blue dot right in the middle of the red circle. We know that all of the balls are going to look the same. So I'm just going to do a comma and make this a compound and just do ball 2, comma, ball 3, and so on and so forth until we have all of them that we need. And I'm just going to, just for spacing, I'm going to move this on to the next line. And, oops, I did it again, ball 8. So those are all of them, but if we go onto our browser, because they all have the same characteristics, this still just looks like one, because they're all stacked right on top of each other. So what we need to do now is to get them so that they can start moving elsewhere and on their own. So for this, we need to create individual transitions for each of our balls. So let's just start with ball 1 again. And I just opened and closed that. So now we're going to say transition, and this is transition delay. So we're just controlling just the delay. And we're going to put it at 0.1 seconds. That's all we're going to do with this one. But before we can make it actually do this transition, because remember, we actually need to have the transition property and the transition duration, but we don't have any duration that's specified anywhere. So if we go over here and click refresh and mouse over it, nothing is happening because we don't have a duration indicated anywhere. So we need to go back and do that. That duration itself is going to be in the, well, we have two of them. We have one in main, but we're not going to worry about that one right now. We're going to do the blue circles. So let's go in and add in our transition for these circles. So we're going to do transition, just like we were in the other exercise. We're going to transition all of the items. So we're going to mean any location or anything else that's changing. In this case, I think it's just really the margin and the position that's changing. So we're going to go all, and we're going to do the duration of 2 seconds. It's going to take 2 seconds to get to its location. And just for fun, we're going to use ease in out, which means that it starts out slow and it ends slow, but it picks up speed in the middle. And let's see what happens. If we mouse over this, nothing happens. And why is that? Think about it for a moment. Got it? It's because we don't have the hover set in here yet. If you recall for the previous exercises that we've had to give that state a hover before any sort of action is going to take place. So we don't have that set up in place yet, so we'll get there. So let's go in and just put in a bunch of different transition speeds for each of these different balls. All I'm going to do is copy and paste, but since they're all going to be different, we do need to go in and make changes. So this will become ball 2, and this will be ball 3, and so on. Okay, so now we have all of these in here. I haven't gone in and changed these transition speeds yet, so that'll be the next step that we'll do. And I'm just going to change these each by 1/10 of a second difference. So we'll just keep counting up just like we did with the actual numbers. This is something, again, when we get to the end of this exercise, I encourage you to go ahead and play with these and see what happens when you're changing these numbers and what it means when you hover over and they transition, and look at what happens when you're changing the speed. I'm just going to save this, but nothing's going to happen, so I'm not going to go out to the browser and take a look yet. We need to put in that hover. So let's go ahead and do that. If we remember right, our box that we wanted to go into was called container, and we wanted to make some changes with the ball items. So let's go ahead and change this. Now we need to actually go in and make these small blue circles move. And if you recall correctly, we need to use a specific command, and we're going to be doing this over the entire box. And let's go take a look at our HTML. Our box is this container. So in container, is what we're going to be mousing in and out of. So let's go to our delays.css, and we know that it's container, and it's, what is it? Hover. And we just want to affect each of the different balls. So we're going to start with ball 1, and we're going to be creating each of these as we go. So in this case, we are going to do a transform. We did a transform in the easing exercise just before this. And what we're going to be doing here is we're going to transform, meaning we're going to make this move from one point to another. And in order to do that, we're going to use the translate. In this little drop down, you're going to see there's 3 options. What we're doing with translate is it's telling it to move from one point to another along the XY axis. So the first option is translate with the parentheses, and there's a comma, which means you would do the x-axis in the first part, then comma, y-axis. That's the one we're actually going to want. But then there is also, you can do it just one direction, so along the x-axis, or just along the y-axis. So we're going to pick this first one, and we're going to make ball number 1 move minus 250 pixels along the x-axis and 200 pixels along the y-axis. So it's going to move left, and 200, which is further down. So it's going to go to the bottom corner. I'm going to go ahead and put my semicolon there to close this. I'm going to save it, and we're going to go take a look and see what happens with this particular ball. So we're going to go back out to my browser. We're going to refresh. If we mouse over, we should see one going down to the left corner. Because what's happening is it's going from this center point, it's going minus 250 pixels, which will take it to the left, along the x-axis, and it's going an additional 200 along the y-axis, this way. So the intersection is down in this corner. So that's all we're doing when it comes to these coordinates as far as how we're moving it. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver, and we're going to continue creating these, but we're going to create them for each of the different balls, and we're going to make them move in different places. So let's see. Ball 2 is going to go to 0, so it's not going to move along the it's not going to move up or down along the x-axis, but it will move along the y-axis. And in this case, we are going to make it move minus 200. Just to make sure we're doing this, let's save that and go take another quick peek. We're not going to do this with all of them, but I just want to see what's going on. So you can see this one went 0 along the x-axis. It didn't go either direction, but it went minus 200, so it went up. So this is what we're going to start filling in. So I'm going to just keep pasting this down, and I want to be able to see. So this is ball number 3. And ball number 3 goes 250 in the positive direction and minus 200 in the y-axis. We're just going to keep going, and hopefully we don't have any surprises at the end. So let's see, ball 4 goes 250 positive in the x-axis and 0 along the y. So we're just going to save. Now that we have 4 of them, which is half, we're going to go take another look. So we'll refresh and mouse over and see where they all go. So they're each going to a corner or a side. So what we need to do is fill out, so we have a ball that goes up here, 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 and here. So let's just finish up. So I'm going to continue pasting. This one will be for ball 5. And ball 5 goes 250 in the positive on the X and positive 200. So we'll leave that one alone. Ball 6, we're getting there. Ball 6 goes 0 along the x-axis. So this one will go straight down. Going up, yep, so we go ball 6 and goes an additional 200, so this one should go straight down. Ball 7, second to last one here. Ball 7 is going minus 250 and minus 200, so it's going in the negative direction on both the x and the y. And here's our last one, and then we'll go take a look. So 8 goes minus 250 and 0. So it'll stay right on the y-axis. So let's save this. And let's refresh this and keep our fingers crossed that when we hover, it goes to each of the points it's supposed to. There they are. And notice the different speeds at which they do it. This is based on the delays. Now we had one more thing that we needed to do, which is we wanted to make this red circle go away. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to scroll up because this is a main transition effect. And so I want to, it's another hover effect, and it just affects the one element. So we're going to go up. It's going to affect main, because if you remember right, main is the circle, but it's within the container. So we're going to actually make this into a compound style. So we're going to do, oops, let's go back to where we need to, right in here. And I am just going to do main hover. Actually, we need to do container, sorry. This should be container hover, because we want it to happen when it happens over the container, but it affects main. So we'll open and close that, and we just are changing the opacity. So opacity, we're going to make it disappear. So we're going to go to opacity 0 and save. Now let's go back and see what happens. Let's hit refresh and mouse over. But notice that opacity disappeared right away. What do you think we need to do? Did we do any sort of easing effect on that? Or any sort of the duration? Because it's just happening right away. It just keeps going, see? So let's go back. We need to add the duration to main. So not this, but main all the way back up here needs a duration. So we're going to do a transition all, and we are going to do it over 2 seconds, and we're going to do ease in out, meaning that it is slower at the beginning and the end and faster in the middle. It's the bell curve on this. Okay, we're going to save. Now we're going to go over, this should be the last step. Now we'll see what happens. We're going to refresh. And now what happens? See how nice and slow that transitions? Okay, this is the end of exercise 4. So when you're completely finished with this, go ahead and save this delays and the delays HTML, and we're going to go back out to our desktop. Here are all 3 of our folders. Move this class 2 lab out to your web space using FileZilla. There are instructions on what I want you to do within the assignment instructions for this particular lab. So good luck and thank you.